This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you. Victory Thursday. First win of the season for the Winnipeg Jets. Lighting up the Edmonton Oilers last night, 6-0 in the opening game of the regular season, and now back for the home opener tomorrow against Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. A big congratulations to Scott Arniel for his first win as Jets head coach. And, of course, Connor Hellebuyck with a brilliant performance, shutout performance for the Winnipeg Jets, getting them off to a great start of the regular season. We're going to be all over this one today. Ken Wiebe join us. First up, we'll also have Brandon Rewucki on the program, and we will hear from head coach Scott Arniel. We'll also hear from a pretty emotional Connor Hellebuyck after the game, as well as the captain, Adam Lowry, who got the party started with the first goal of the season for the Winnipeg Jets last night. Going to be a real fun one. Great to have you all with us. Shout out to the podcast listeners. Let a friend know about Winnipeg Sports Talk and where they can find us. And for everyone jumping on YouTube, great to have you all here, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're just getting going on what should be another fun season of Winnipeg Jets hockey here in the PEG, and focusing on it here on a daily basis here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, we've got a big Bomber game tomorrow as well, as the Bombers can win and clinch the West Final November 9th at Princess Auto Stadium. We'll hit on that as well. And a little bit later on, we mentioned earlier in the week, we sat down with a number of the players in the Manitoba Moose. I think we'll try and get one of our Moose interviews in, as the Moose are getting ready to start their season this weekend on the road. So a busy one today, but I think we all know what the headline is. 6-0. Jets 1-0 on the season, beating down the Edmonton Oilers last night, who did not look the part of the Stanley Cup favorites last night. If you missed it yesterday after the program, for all of you that want more on the Bombers in the Canadian Football League, the latest CFL 110 with myself and Jeff Hamilton is up on the podcast feed. Search CFL 110 wherever you get Winnipeg Sports Talk and subscribe there. And, of course, it's also available at the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube page as well. It is brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Also want to thank our great sponsors, Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Rollies Transfer, Consolidated Supply, and Manitoba Battery, fansfirst.ca, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, and, of course, our friends over at Royal Sports. We'll also get to a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray as we get things going. But as we welcome everyone that's with us live right now, let's welcome in Michael Remis. How about that, Reem? It was a pretty fun way for Jet fans to start their season last night, and certainly the same goes for the men wearing Jet jerseys last night in Edmonton.
Yeah, that was awesome. So much talk about all the firepower of the Oilers, but I did mention, Huss, I thought the Stanley Cup hangover was going to be a factor. Leon Draisaitl saying in the preseason, hard to get up for a preseason game on a Wednesday, apparently tougher to get up for a season opening game at home on a Wednesday. What a performance by the Jets. As you said, Huss, the key to stopping their power play where they stay out of the box. 1-for-1 on the penalty kill for the Jets. They scored 2 power play goals. I mean, you guys were on fire with the predicting what was going to happen. Kyle Connor scores in his 7th straight season opening game. And Rasmus Kupari got in the action. And for all the talk we've had about who's the Jets' second line center, the question has been answered. It's Adam Lowry's line, and they set the tone starting. And Mason Appleton, 3 points. Lowry scoring the first of the season. Everything went right for the Jets last night, and what a great start for a team that some said, wouldn't make the playoffs, or you thought last year was a fluke. This seems like the exact same team that we saw last year, but can they carry it for a full 82? Can they carry this type of play into the playoffs? I know we're overreacting over one game. I mean, Connor Hellebuyck on pace for 82 shutouts. That's not going to happen.
Someone just said in chat he may never let in another goal.
Yeah, Mason Appleton on pace for 246 points. We could go on and on, but I mean that's what you want to see. Now you come home and you play against Chicago Blackhawks, who just lost the other day to Utah in their home opener. So definitely, I think a lot more excitement now for Friday's home opener. If you didn't get Bomber tickets, there's still plenty of Jets ones available.
Yeah, let's listen, it's going to be a real fun night whether you're at Princess Auto Stadium or whether you're at Canada Life Center tomorrow night. There's going to be a great game awaiting you as a Winnipeg sports fan in one of the two spots. And as we mentioned, I mean, just the Bombers' incredible success at the gates continues. They're full on the weekend. I do believe there's some seats left for the home opener, so hopefully we'll see those ones filled as well. There is a link, by the way, in the description of this video for home opener tickets that you can jump on. And actually, while we're mentioning this, the WST, last year we did a ticket pack 4 games where you got all 4 games. This year we're doing it a little differently. We're doing a game of the month with a special price, a ticket. It includes a beverage, early access to join us before to gather in the bar outside 316, and then getting the Winnipeg Sports Talk crew together. The great thing is, if you want to bring your family for one of the games, or you got a few buddies that are in to come, the more the merrier. And of course, our game in October is October 20th against the Pittsburgh Penguins, who got thumped last night 6-0 by the New York Rangers. Probably not what Rutger McGroarty had envisioned for his first game in the National Hockey League. But Rutger will be here. We'll be able to welcome him back. Sidney Crosby, Canadian hockey legend. And, of course, that's also the day that the Winnipeg Jets will be honoring Brian Little, who will be signing a one-day contract to retire as a Winnipeg Jet. So what you're going to want to do, if you're listening on the podcast, go to winnipegjets.com/WST. You can click on the link for all 6 of the games. But right now, let's get a good crew together for that game on October 20th and kick off the season in style for Winnipeg Sports Talk. Again, winnipegjets.com/WST. I'll put this out right now because, listen, there were so many positives last night. But why not question of the day for all of you in the chat? What were you most pleased about last night in the Jets win? You could focus in on a whole bunch of different areas, starting with the brilliance of Connor Hellebuyck, the play of that third line, the power play, and many others. So let us know in the chat what you think about. Oh, by the way, Rob Somerville, is this Section 316 wheelchair and scooter accessible? 317 is. I would suggest that if you're interested in joining us, you might want to give a call to the Jets office. I don't think that the wheelchair seats for 317 would be there, but if they do have availability in that section, basically it's right beside us. I believe Tico Napoli was in that section last year as well when he had it. So would love to have you join us. Get in touch with the Jets office, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you if they do have availability in that section. Reem, as I said, I kind of wanted to start with Helly because we all know that he's the backbone of this team. And I do maintain that maybe this is a very different game, at least not being the route that it was if Hellebuyck didn't make a few of the saves that he made in that first period. He had a couple. One of the things that, and I'd be interested to hear if this was something that he worked on specifically, a couple of really nice plays with his stick on guys that had coming to the net. Twice in that first period, he ended up essentially checking a forward that was coming in before they even got ready to make a shot. But he was in, I mean, listen, we don't know exactly what this situation was, but there was an issue within Connor Hellebuyck's family, and we'll hear from him in a moment. He was pretty emotional after the game. But this guy was just absolutely dialed in. I'm not sure whether he was playing for somebody or with a heavy heart, but he was absolutely brilliant last night. And I also couldn't help but think, removed from whatever's happening personally with him right now, that disaster in Minnesota where he gave up 8 in the first 2 periods and got the hook in the preseason might not have been the best thing to possibly happen to him. Kind of get the rust out, everything out early on, because he looked like he was in midseason form last night to start it all off.
Yeah, just looking at the Money Puck advanced stats, 2.82 goals saved above expected, while the Jets may not have someone like Connor McDavid at center ice. Their superstar is in the net, and when he's on, the Jets are tough to beat. The forward lines, forward checking, playing aggressive hockey, and Hellebuyck, as you said, he's the backbone of the team, and they need him to be at his best at the most important games, and off to a great start. And I kind of agree. I thought maybe Hellebuyck was looking for a challenge in that preseason game. Hey, you know what? No problem. I can go behind this B roster against the A Minnesota Wild, and got lit up, and we know that he's played well in bounce back games like that, and he's played well since, and carried it forward to game 1 last night against Edmonton. So he was awesome. Nice to see him back with the team and playing the way that we know that he's capable of.
You know what? Let's hear from Hellebuyck just right off the bat, because there's so many other directions that we're going to go in the conversation. But we started off with the Jets MVP and the reigning Vezina Trophy winner, and he had missed a couple days of practice, joined the team, made the flight, and was Connor Hellebuyck last night. Helly spoke after the game about the last few days, and of course the big start for his team last night.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy week. It's been tough on the whole family, but the boys played great for me, and they've been really supportive this entire time. So I really cherish these moments, and I cherish my time with the family. So hope they're doing all right.
You seem kind of dialed in right from the get-go. You saw a lot of pucks early, which I know you like that, right? To kind of get you into a game.
Yeah. I just thought the guys in front of me were just keeping everything to the outside, allowing me to see pucks, allowing me to feel it, clearing rebounds, clearing lanes. They made my night really easy, and once in a while I'll make a big save and chime in and feel like part of the team. So, that was just a great team effort tonight.
Hellebuyck giving credit to the entire team, which certainly is warranted. But he mentioned, a couple of those saves early on that got the Jets going, and then the Jets making the most of their opportunities and then some, with a real tough night for Stewie Skins as he got chased from the net. But the Jets didn't let up. Listen, there's a lot of people that have been writing this team off for whatever reason. Hellebuyck was asked about what this win says about the Jets going into this new campaign.
They got a lot of expectations over there. Expectations can kill you if you don't know how to handle it. And we came in with our mindset that we're going to stick to our game plan, and I think we executed it perfectly.
Talk about your expectations as a team, though. This is certainly going to, I know internally you guys believe, but this might also raise them outside of this group, too.
No, we don't live with expectations. We try to get better every single day, and we stick to our details and really work on our game every single day and let the process take care of itself.
That was a real interesting quote from Hellebuyck, Reem, in that, and listen, if you read into it a little bit and think about what this team has done and hasn't done in the last couple seasons, I don't know whether we're kind of digging more into a quote from game number 1 for more than it is, but you do wonder, with the seasons that the Jets have had and the unfortunate playoffs, as to what that expectation of performance maybe did to them. And it was a very interesting way to hear the way that they are approaching this, not worrying about expectations or predictions, just going in and trying to continue to get better as a club. And hell, it was one heck of a start, led by Connor Hellebuyck. And just as far as, whatever he and his family's dealing with, I'm sure everybody wishing nothing but the best to the Hellebuyck family. But whatever he was dealing with, obviously he was playing with somewhat of a heavy heart, and was absolutely nails last night, and that's exactly what the Winnipeg Jets expect from Connor Hellebuyck, and he delivered in a big way.
Oh yeah, he was awesome yesterday, and certainly helps shutting down the Oilers. But hey, the rest of the team very good too, putting up 6 goals, chasing Stuart Skinner There was so much to like, Hustler. We do have some quick breaking news, just talking about goaltending. The Jets have put goalie Capo Kakinen on waivers. Elliot Friedman.
Interesting.
Putting that out 1:11 p.m. So we'll see tomorrow, 1 o'clock, to see if he clears, anyone picks him up. But some breaking goaltending news there.
Yeah, so, obviously that sort of indicates that Eric Comrie is going to be the number 2, at least. He was the number 2 last night. I think we could certainly take that from the depth chart, but he'll get the first crack, at least, to begin the season at being Connor Hellebuck's backup right now when Helly is not in the net. You mentioned some of the predictions from last night. First of all, shout out to everyone that jumped on our WST parlay. We had the Jets to win, the Kyle Connor goal, Josh Morrissey point. We'll get to both of those players. They had big games last night. But Remo, I think I had to laugh with the massive first period from the Lowry line and Mason Appleton for all of our conversations last week. And it kind of became a bit of a hot topic, which I was quite surprised at after the season that Appleton had last year. He had his fair share of critics here. And I guess my point was, I'm not sure why everyone's on him. He did exactly what was asked of him last year. That line was awesome, one of the best third lines in the National Hockey League. And yes, they do play a lot. And I think maybe there's some people that, were begrudging them for how much the coaches threw them out. But hell of a start for the redhead from Green Bay last night with a 3-point night, getting a goal. And really that line, and we'll start off with the captain who led off the scoring, absolutely leading the way as you would want a captain to do. I think we've still got a lot of talk about that second, third line, whatever you want to call it, with Vlad, Perfetti, and Nikolai Ehlers. But the Lowry line picked up right where they left off last season, and that is being one of those top lines in the league, and they were dominant last night.
Oh, yeah. Appleton, first star of the game, getting the jacket alongside Dylan Sandberg in the locker room after. Those guys were awesome, as you said. Got them scoring first. Adam Lowry starting off, as you said, that's what you want your captain to do. Scott O'Neill, putting them out first, matching them against the McDavid line. And hey, those guys don't score a ton, but they definitely don't allow goals, and they played great last night. You'd like to see that going forward, and they're going to have some spike games where they score a few. And I think Nino Niederreiter is going to score a couple more. Last year I thought he was robbed a couple times, or snake bit, whatever way you want to put it. But hey, we talk about guys playing for their next contract. We've talked about Nikolai Ehlers, Neil Pionk, Alex Iafallo has come up as well. But Mason Appleton, he's a pending UFA, so he wants to have a good season, and he can get rewarded again in the off season. So that line is a huge part of the team, and they were big yesterday, being on the ice for 3 goals for, 0 against.
And you know what? And we can get into this more a little bit with Ken and Brando when they come on. But I was thinking, and listen, obviously, great spirits right now. You're watching the Jets, light up the Oilers in the first game of the season. But you just mentioned all the guys on expiring contracts. And we've been talking for the last week about how close the Brad Lamberts, the Chibrakovs, the Salmonsons are to getting in and cracking the lineup. And there is a theory that I will throw out that the competition within this roster for playing time right now, considering the guys that are out of the lineup, and that includes a guy like David Gustafsson right now that's with the team, other guys that showed well in camp, the young players, the combination of the amount of contract years and the competition, to be on the roster and in the lineup, that could be a real perfect storm to be getting, to have a perfect situation where nothing is guaranteed. Guys are earning their spots, and guys are having to play up to a certain level to stay in the lineup. And, I can't think of a year, Reem, where we've had so many players on expiring contracts, both UFAs and RFAs. And that's a dynamic that we didn't really get in too much to during the preseason, as we were just looking to see what the roster looked like. But I don't think it's something that can be overlooked. And I am hopeful that the way that this team is built, with some legitimate uncertainty as to where guys go and the importance of them playing for that next contract, in the addition of the young players pushing for spots, could be a really good scenario for Scott Arniel in his first year as the head coach.
Yeah, we're going from a year, Huss, where all the forwards are exactly the same. And I got to be honest, like, when has that happened in the last bunch of years in the NHL? You don't really have any changes. Everyone who was here this year in day one was here last year. And you have a number of UFAs at the end of the season, Ehlers. I follow Appleton, Nemestikov, and then you have a couple RFAs, big one, Velarde.
Pionk, too.
And but on defense, Pionk is an UFA, Sandberg, an RFA. They're going to have definitely some changes coming, and I think that's kind of in the back burner of this upcoming season, as this is a group that's been together now for a couple years, and some big pieces, Nikolai Ehlers, Neil Pionk, could be, the future is uncertain with those.
Yeah, I think all of that is, frankly, is a good thing. Now, guys would love to earn new contracts, whether it's here or elsewhere. They'll be playing for it. But anyways, listen, at first glance, a pretty nice night to start it off. I thought the first line certainly had their way in the Edmonton end. I mean, there was some give and take early on. There was one kind of real rough shift for them, but they came right back with a strong one the next time. And then, I mean, we have to get into it. Rasmus Kupari. Hand up. I mean, even though I did say he was going to score last night just because of how weird openers are and the fact that we've been talking about is Rasmus the guy for the fourth line. What a start for him. I mean, he ended up playing 12-16 last night. He ended up with 2 shots on goal. He got his first goal as a Winnipeg Jet, Remo. He blocked a shot. We knew, I kept thinking back last night watching the game, last year through the first 20 games, we were all impressed with Rasmus Kupari. We knew that he could fly. He was in the play. Just nothing really happened when he was on the ice. I would suggest that he probably is under the most pressure right now to produce, or he's probably the first guy out of the lineup. And tell you what, it could not have gone any better for Rasmus in the first game of this season, getting the opportunity as the center of the fourth line.
Yeah, there was a while last season, Huss, where Rasmus Kupari had the fastest recorded ice time of any skater on the NHL Edge stats. He's a former first-round pick. He's a bigger guy. Hasn't really put it together at the NHL. Is this, we said yesterday, is one goal for him a breakout? But in all seriousness, he played big minutes. The fourth line controlled play. They look pretty good. And maybe is a guy who's figuring it out and who has more potential than we thought after he had a 0-goal campaign for the Winnipeg Jets last year. So something to watch. Maybe they found a guy because he definitely has the tools in terms of skating. He just got to put the rest of it together. So definitely encouraging, and great pass, by the way, for Josh Morrissey.
And Morrissey was so good last night. And I think, because of all the other goals and everything that happened, it might be overlooked. Josh was phenomenal last night. And the pass that he made to Rasmus on that play is that of a big-time guy. I know Kenny's pumping his tires. Kenny's prediction is that Josh Morrissey finishes top 3 in Norris voting and is a finalist this year. Tell you what, if he has another 81 games like he did last night, Ken's going to be right.
It's kind of funny, we spent so much of training camp talking about Brad Lambert, talking about the second line center, talking about the fourth line. We really didn't talk about Kyle Connor at all, who scored yesterday. We didn't really talk about Josh Morrissey. Not a lot of time on Mark Scheifele because those guys are veteran players. They're good. You know what you're going to get from them. We knew where they were going
to be last night in the lineup.
You knew where they were going to be, and you know how they were going to perform. So credit to the best players on the team, being there. And Josh Morrissey looking forward to seeing him as he's just exploded offensively over the last couple of years. And I think Ken had him among Norris consideration, and hopefully, he's able to be in top 5, top 3, because he's one of the best in the league.
A lot of good stuff in here on the Why Not question of the day. Dom Zappia, bottom pairing on D was good also. I like Colin Miller, and I'll tell you what. I mean, I wasn't really Hayden Fleury, I thought was okay during the preseason. He had a real strong game. I thought, moved the puck well, had that great shot block at one point, took one in the grill as well. I mean, That was a great debut for the one guy that wasn't a Winnipeg Jet last year. And then for my money, and we'll get to this after Ken when we get into our fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. To be honest, I think big picture, the best part of last night was special teams. I mean, first of all, the Jets only took one penalty and killed it. I mean, that's where you want to start playing a team like the Edmonton Oilers. The other part of it was 2 for 3 on the power play. We know how much of an issue special teams were last year. To get off to a great start like that for a unit that really looked good at the end of the preseason was another big plus for the Jets in game number 1. We're going to break it down with Ken Wiebe. We'll have more from Scott Arneal and Captain Adam Lowry as we continue the program. Brandon Rewucki a little later on. I did mention to y'all that CFL 110 is up right now. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I had a great time with Jeff getting ready for this week in the Canadian Football League. It, of course, is brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg, who can help you with the clean, organized garage this fall before the snow flies. If you're interested in totally revolutionizing your garage space area, give Garage Living Winnipeg a call at 999-1234 for all that hockey equipment and bikes and clutter around it. You can completely change it, and especially if you're seeing what they've done in garages here in this video. They've got an innovative solution called Slat Wall with dozens of hooks, baskets, and shelves that clip into it to get everything off your floor. There's even a cool golf club caddy and tire racks to store those winter or summer tires. And you can do as much of it or as little of it as you want to fit within your budget. This is your chance to clear the clutter, organize, and beautify your garage with Slat Wall, as well as polyaspartic floor coating, made in Canada, premium metal cabinetry for a total garage makeover. Check out their website at garageliving.com for examples of their amazing work, and give our pal Pat Kanuga a call, 204-999-1234, to book a free in-garage consultation or make an appointment to meet them at their showroom at 981 Main Street. Garage Living Winnipeg. Garage is made for living. If you've got a move coming up, folks, take as much of the stress out of it as possible with our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Family owned and operated in the Peg for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving and storage. And they'll give you and your family and all your possessions the white glove treatment to your next destination. Check out their website at rollies.com. And in the upper right corner, there's a request an estimate feature. First things first, throw WST in the promo code for a special discount for WST listeners on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're moving and what you'll be moving, and they'll turn it around with a quick and very competitive estimate to give you that white glove treatment on your way to your next move. Rolly's Transfer, for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Winnipeg. Give them a shout and get to rollies.com for your next move and request an estimate today. Huge shout out to our friends at Consolidated Supply for their great support of WST. The leaders in irrigation systems and solutions, artificial turf, golf carts as the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba, with other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens, as well as small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see them at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. Just before we bring in Wiebe, our friends at Manitoba Battery have a big weekend coming up. Shout out to Donnie and his great staff. It's the Thanksgiving extravaganza. Friday at the original location on Logan, barbecue and celebration. And then on Saturday, October 12th, come and check out the new digs for the grand opening of their second location on Dover Court in South Winnipeg. Tons of giveaways, like a draw for a $500 gift card. All you have to do is show up at either location to enter. Plus, they have tons of great deals, like a $100 gift card they're selling for $80 this weekend only, and they're raising money for breast cancer. Every battery that's recycled in the 2-day event, they'll make a donation to the Breast Cancer Foundation as a tip of the cap to Donnie's mom, who's beat breast cancer 3 times in her life. Get down there, check the place out, enjoy a hot dog, support a great cause, and get a great deal. You can learn more about all those great deals at manitobabattery.com. Again, this Saturday, October 12th, grand opening. Get in there for all those great deals and giveaways at the new Manitoba Battery on Dovercourt Drive. All right, let's welcome in Ken Wiebe, who was up late last night, mixing it up for the first time this season with Sean Reynolds on Kenny and Rennie. And Ken, hard to imagine first game of the season going much better for the visitors last night in that 6-0 steamrolling of the defending Western Conference champs. How about that?
Well, good afternoon, Andrew. Great to be with you as always. Certainly a later night for sure. Anytime the post games are beginning in the 12 a.m. hour, it keeps you up. But interesting game for sure on a lot of fronts. And again, it's one of 82. And of course, you're not going to overreact with the results. But certainly a lot of the boxes the Jets were attempting to check off in that opener against a obviously highly touted opponent, they were able to get a lot of the things taken care of on a number of fronts. So it was an impressive start. Again, we don't expect the Calgary Flames to win the Stanley Cup after rallying to win in overtime against Vancouver, but they'll be happy there. But in terms of the Jets' performance, a lot of tough to really find a lot of things that didn't go well unless you're really getting into the picking of nits, if you will. Though obviously there was room for improvement on a few fronts, and we'll touch on some of those.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, we can start nitpicking on a 6-0 victory in a bit. But let's start off with some of the standouts. Sure. And I'll tell you what, we talked about Hellebuck, who was absolutely brilliant in some of the goal scorers. Yeah. I know you have had some pretty gaudy predictions for a few members of the Winnipeg Jets. Josh Morrissey, top 3 in Norris voting, be one of them. And I said before we brought on, you see 81 more games, anything close to what we said last night, you're going to be looking like a genius. Josh, very quietly, was brilliant last night. And listen, he's going to need to be that guy, considering, where the Jet defense core is. I mean, what did you think of Josh in particular? And, the blue line overall, including the newcomer Hayden Fleury, who I thought showed well.
Yeah, right on, Huss. I mean, I casually have been saying Josh in the top 3 for sure to be a finalist, but I actually picked him to win the Norris this year in our dump and chase prediction. So I'm not gonna back away from that one. I think Josh is. I think he's tracking to. I mean, he's been above 70. I think he'll be north of 80 points, potentially 85 plus. The ability to add bring penalty killing back under the portfolio, Huss. We know that when Josh was partnered with Jacob Trouba, he often killed penalties before he moved into the quarterback power play role. So I think that's a big thing. I know, having, spoken to a number of Norris voters over the years, they feel that, obviously Josh made an incredible effort in improving his defending last season. He heard all about how his metrics were, not at that elite level. So he improved them dramatically. I think adding the penalty killing back into the portfolio is massive on that front, and we know that he's a driver for the Jets on a number of levels. Made a great play on the first goal by Adam Lowry, causing the turnover by Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and his read on the goal by Rasmus Kupari. First the read to get there to pinch down, and then the pass across for the backside offside one-timer for Kupari. Absolutely exceptional read. I thought he was very impactful on the defensive end, whether he was up against Draisaitl or McDavid or both. I thought that the pairing with Dylan DeMello was exceptional. Dylan Samberg, obviously we've talked about him having a little bit more offensive tilt to his game at times. Again, is he ever going to be a 10-goal scorer? Probably not, but he'll replace some of the lost production from Brendan Dillon. We often talk about him moving into that top 4 role, needing to provide a little bit more toughness, but Dillon's the kind of guy that has a heavy shot. He got involved, activation station, moved up and scored off the rush after the great setup. Neil Pionk had a great stretch pass to Nino Niederreiter on Mason Appleton's goal. A lot of talk about that pairing, Huss. And lastly, again, the place where the Jets had the red flag this year was on the third pairing for some folks. So what we saw in game 1, Colin Miller, 15 minutes and 16 seconds of steady work. And you saw Hayden Fleury provide north of 16 minutes of work, couple block shots, one with his face, one with the keister, if you will, on the Evan Bouchard drop pass from McDavid. I thought this was a guy who, I know you talked about it with Craig yesterday, Huss. This is a guy who knows what he is at this stage of his career. There was a reason why he was a top pick. He no longer has to be he's not trying to be a 50-point guy and show people why he was a first rounder, but his speed is exceptional. His ability to close, that will help him defensively, play a simple game. And when he plays a simple game, he can be a very effective player. And, again, it's one game, but what we saw from the Jets, both from their defense core and from their commitment to team defense, was a lot of what we saw last year. And that's why, folks like you, myself, and Sean, like, we don't think it's, again, will it be hard to get into the playoffs? Yes. But the people who think it's an automatic that the Jets are going to miss, I mean, that was, that's exhibit A as to why they can be a team that can not only, contends for a playoff spot, but is still in the mix for a top 3 spot in the Central Division.
It's sort of hilarious, a lot of the conversations around it, just by the takes. I mean, if you look at sports books, I mean, the Jets came into the season as minus 200 to make the playoffs. And I mean,
right.
I always say follow the money of people that are actually putting it on the line or taking bets, as opposed to just people that are firing out takes. I did have to laugh, though. I mean, our friends at Sportsnet have already put X's beside the Leafs, the Canucks, and the Oilers and put them in the playoffs. All 3 of them had losses last night of varying degrees of frustration. And then the Jets do what they did, kind of picking up where they left off at the end of the regular season. I know the playoffs didn't go well with that performance. Hey, just before we move off the blue line.
Hey, Sammy Cosentino did pick the Jets in that intermission. I know a lot of people down in the panel, Sam had them as a clear playoff team as well.
That was an Oilers home game. That entire thing was a joke, like, to be honest. Like, the opening game of the season on national TV, and we have the Oilers broadcast, and they're advertising Oilers 50-50 all game, and you can't even buy it in Manitoba. I mean, I'll say this. That does not happen to Edmonton, to Calgary, to Vancouver, to Montreal, Toronto. It happens to 2 teams in Canada, Winnipeg and Ottawa, who often are treated like second-class citizens by the national broadcaster. I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. You can rant as much as you want. I think you may see more regional broadcasts this year, but that's neither here nor there. And again, Louis DeBrusque, lots of love for the Jets during the broadcast yesterday, including a hot topic of conversation. Huss didn't see a lot of hate for Mason Appleton's game yesterday. In fact, Louis suggesting maybe he'll even sniff around the 20 goal mark this year. So anyway,
hell of a start if he wants to do that. Again, he had a great start last year too, but
for sure, no victory laps here after game 1, Huss. But I mean, not only did that line get in on 3 of the goals, setting the tone and everything else, they kept the Jets killers at bay. Nothing for McDavid, nothing for Draisaitl. I mean, we understand the Oilers were sort of on cruise control, and this is reminiscent of the Jets kind of come after. Yes, we know they had a great run in 2018, and yes, they were in first place for a good chunk of 2019. But when you get that far, it's sort of sometimes there's a couple of false starts before they get rolling. But again, the Jets also imposed their will in that game, Huss. So they dictated a lot of the terms, and they kept those guys off the board, and it was a team effort that allowed that to happen. And as you mentioned off the top, I just wanted to say something quickly about Hellebuyck, Huss. Anyone who saw the post-game interviews knows how emotional Connor got in speaking and again, he didn't get into the specifics, but obviously there's something going on the family front. So his ability I thought he was incredibly dialed in from the very beginning. There wasn't a barrage of shots, but the shots that he faced were tough. I thought, Huss, what were we talking about last year with the tough series against Colorado? Their ability to get to the net, get tips, get, traffic in front. Hellebuyck was battling through screens all day long. I thought his reads were fantastic. He cut off one cross ice pass with his stick. He made a couple great reads to get his body position in place. Zach Hyman had an outstanding tip that he's, squared up on. I just thought that Hellebuyck was real for a guy who hadn't been on the ice with his teammates since last Friday. Incredibly dialed in. And of course, it helped that he went out with Wade Flaherty before getting on the plane on Tuesday. But this was a guy who, again, looked like a Vezina Trophy winner. And when he looks like that, the Jets will always have a chance in games, even in the games that they don't, deserve to be in. But Huss, the other thing about the shutout yesterday, as great as Hellebuyck was, this wasn't a one-man show where it was a shelling by the Oilers and, the goalie just stood on his head. Hellebuyck was excellent, but let's not confuse this with the Jets. The Jet structure was in place. So, yeah, expected goals. And, again, it's only convenient when it's convenient, right? So yesterday, some of the metrics, of course he wasn't very good and expected goals, but it's score effects. Come on. Like it works both ways here, folks. So I don't want to hear about people getting caved in. There was no caving in. There were a couple extended zone shifts, but guess what? The Oilers will provide those shifts against a lot of lines this year because of their high-end talent. But the Jets did a great job of containing them. As you touched on, special teams, excellent, but also discipline. Discipline in that game was massive, Huss. You don't want to give the Oilers an easy power play in the first 5 minutes. It's almost like a layup with that power play operating at 30 to 35% the way that it did last year. So for me, I thought that was really important. And Huss, as I said on our show last night, I've got absolutely no issue whatsoever with Kyle Connor taking a two-hander to the leg of Leon Draisaitl after Leon ran him and tried to get under his skin. You can't do that every single game. But Huss, one thing for a skilled player who isn't overly physical, and we used to talk about it, again, don't want to sound like the old classic Neanderthal here, but in the 90s and the 2000s, when somebody took a run at a skilled player like that, Huss, you put the Sherwood up in his chin and made him eat it. So you take the minor penalty all day long, all of a sudden people aren't running you because you're there to defend yourself. And again, I'm not here to say Kyle Connor has to slash his opponent every time he gets hit, but in a game where it's a blowout, I've got no problem for him sticking up for himself in that scenario. I know a lot of the Lady Bing memes were flying around out
I got to
there.
give Rennie credit.
Rennie
cracked me up last night on the show saying, one Lady Bing is enough. You've won that one. Now moving on. And hey, listen, you got to get a little bit of space out there. And you're right. Yeah. Kyle Connor isn't a physical guy. And listen, you know, if there was a time to do it, like if that's a tie game in the third period,
sure, of course he's not going to do that.
That's a no. But that was the go zone to establish a little bit more space. And once again, he did his thing. Back to Hellebuck for a minute.
Sure.
You mentioned that one. There were two plays I noticed in the first period that I don't remember him being as good with his stick, challenging it, like 2 times rushing in, and guys didn't get the puck out front. They didn't get it on the net because he had done that. And I just have a feeling that's another thing that he's been working on, adding to the arsenal that's made him one of the best goaltenders in the world. Hey, just before we get to the forward groups and things like that, I don't want to move off the defense without mentioning Dylan Sandberg. Sandberg, of course, scored. This is a guy that maybe more is being expected of this year than anybody else on the blue line in the move up to the second pairing. And Ken, I didn't notice this until just now, but I mean, Josh Morrissey led the team on the blue line.
23-49 or something, like just under 24. 39. Right?
Dylan Sandberg was 23-21 and actually played 4 more minutes than Neil Pionk. What did you think of Sandberg's performance in his first opportunity out there, being leaned on as a top 4 defenseman? And as I say, I don't know where that discrepancy comes from. I guess he did play an extra minute an extra minute. Well, just like he's playing with, like, did they switch him up and he went out there with some of the other guys for the extra 4 minutes?
Yeah, I'm just guessing, again, like you said, normally he kills penalties, but there was only one minor there. I just think it was one of the situations where Huss in a blowout game, you didn't have to play again, yes, Morrissey played because he plays in all situations now. Pionk was just under 19. So I just think it was a matter of, situational play. He took probably a couple. And the other thing too, you got to remember Hayden Fleury missed a little bit of time, took that puck in the face. Huss. So I think that there was just a couple double-decker shifts where he went out with Miller and then he went out instead of Pionk both times there. So
anyways,
that's probably related
ready
to that.
For the challenge that is coming
100%.
forward to him this year.
Yeah, and again, it's funny. Jacob Stoller pointed something out to me. I'd sent him a note about, he was talking about the top 4D, but like last year, the Jets started with Dylan and Schmidt as a pairing, and they did actually have in game 1 in Calgary, they had Sandberg and Pionk, but they quickly went back to the old, more traditional pairing with Dylan and Pionk. But I loved what I saw from Sandberg. It was a quiet game only in the sense that he didn't make a lot of mistakes. So a quiet game that coaches appreciate. So I thought he was excellent. This is a guy that people around the league are very high on, Huss. I mean, there's a reason why he was a top high-end second-round pick. A lot of teams interested in his services. Mobile guy, big physical, strong guy. I think he'll really flourish this year with a little bit more experience under his belt. We know it wasn't an easy road to get into regular minutes, with the training camp injury and all of those things dating back a few years. This is a guy that has won at every level, has high school, two-time NCAA champion. This is a guy who loves the responsibility. I think he's ready for more. And also it relates to when you can play the third pairing 15 and 16 minutes, it will help that second pairing. Then you don't have to play Pionk, 22 plus. I thought that Neil also had a strong game and in his 19 plus minutes of work. And sorry, I don't want to need to shift gears. Just one last thing on Hellebuyck. When we had Kevin Woodley on the July show, he's always talked about his ability to read the play, Huss. And that goes back to what you said. It seemed like he was being a little bit more aggressive in trying to break things up with his stick, but it's his ability to read the play and sort of decipher where things are going. And even Connor talked about that early in training camp today or this year about how that's one of the skills that he's really honed over the years, as an NHL regular and, as one of the elite goalies in the National Hockey League. And I thought that was very apparent in game one. And Huss, speaking of the goalies, bit of a surprise on the waiver wire today.
Yeah, let's get to this.
Sure. And I mean, again, this is not a knock. I mean, it was an open competition. We know this. I mean, I don't think we were disregarding Eric Comrie, but it just felt like with Capo Kakinen being in here, it seemed like he had a leg up. But, lo and behold, there's Comrie in the backup job yesterday. And then today it's Kakinen on waivers. And the Jets will see if he clears. And again, we often talk. I mean, Huss, we talked about this a month or so ago. Comrie seemed more, not suited, but because of the role that he's played with the Moose and how much time he's spent there, we thought he was a more natural candidate for the mentorship role with Thomas Milic and Dom DiVincentis. But right now, if Kakinen clears, he will go down. But again, this is something we've talked about. Same thing with Lambert and Solomonson, Huss. This is someone who, when you're in that job, it's not your job for the year. Comrie will work as hard as he can to keep the job, but this open competition is ongoing, even though it's Kakinen that is first exposed to waivers. But you also have to, tip your cap to Eric Comrie, because you can be sure that Eric Comrie is a very, tuned in person, Huss. I mean, he saw all the articles written, all the people talking about, people thought it was a shoo-in for Kakinen being the number 2, yet all he did was take care of his business in his, limited action in the preseason. Played well, worked hard every day in practice. And, right now he's got the leg up in the competition. So again, it's a mild surprise for me. And again, it's not a knock on Comrie, because I think he can get back to the level he was at before he got the 2-year deal from Buffalo, Huss. It's a very, comfortable situation in terms of Hellebuyck and Comrie know each other for a long time. They've been partners before. They train together. They're, under the same kind of grouping there with Ray Petkow and Adam Franchilla and company. So there's a comfort level first and foremost, but the Jets aren't just giving him the job for comfort. They believe he can get back to that .920 save percentage and, just over 2 goals against average. And if he's in that range, that will mean he will be playing at a level that Laurent Brossoit was at last year. Now, that's an awful big ask for anyone. He was literally the best backup goalie in the NHL. And yeah, I get it. Leafs fans, Anthony Stolarz, great start for him in a Leafs jersey. Maybe some folks arguing that he definitely was in that conversation, but I still think that Brossoit was the best backup in the NHL last year. And if the Jets can get somewhere close to that type of performance from Comrie and or Kakinen, that's a big deal for them. So now it's a 24-hour situation where the Jets will wait to see if there is a waiver claim. If not, Kakinen will go down. And this doesn't mean the Jets are giving up on Kakinen. They still believe in him long term. They right now feel that Comrie is the number 2 and Kakinen can get some games with the Moose and kind of go from there. And Huss, sorry to ramble on at the buffet here, but I know you talked about this with Mike yesterday. I did a little bit of following up also on the Jared Anderson-Dolan front. Obviously, we know, because Scott O'Neill mentioned, that he blocked a shot in the last home game, the second to last preseason game against the Calgary Flames. They sent him down because he was feeling better, but it was just one of these things that was lingering. And then in a X-ray showed that there was a little bit of damage there, so that's why he went back to the NHL level on IR on that situation. It was, nothing nefarious. It was one of the situations where Anderson-Dolan was trying to make the team. He said, I'm fine. I'm on the ice, no problem. But then after the benefit of the X-ray, they saw that the injury was there, and they know it was related to the timing in the preseason. That's why the player on a 2-way, like you mentioned yesterday, will be getting NHL money until he's healthy, and then he'll be assigned to the Moose after that.
Here's my question. Will he, because you can't put an injured player on waivers, if he is going to be assigned to the Moose, does he have to go on waivers again?
I mean, he's already cleared. So as far as I know, I don't think so, Huss. But again, now we saw what's happened with Raphael Lavoie. Has been on waivers and back and forth a couple of times already here. So I'll double check on that. I didn't get an answer when I got the update, but I don't believe that will be the case. But again, because he was not, because previously it's different with Lavoie because he was claimed by Vegas and then reclaimed by Edmonton. I think this is a scenario where I think, because he's gone through, I don't think the Jets tried to sneak him through. It was just a matter of he got through and then they found the injury after the fact. So it wasn't that they were trying to hide the injury. I mean, they basically had their coach on record saying he had been banged up, but then he got back on the ice. So I don't think that's the case at all. And, again, obviously he's going to spend as much time as he needs to getting healthy, and then I expect him to be assigned to the Moose. But again, twists and turns are part of a season. And, again, now the Jets are going to be getting down to, we talked about this at the start of camp, or Scott O'Neill mentioned it. They'll be carrying a 22-man roster. Now, they won't have as many benefits as they thought originally because of the 3 players on IR. But long-term, if the Jets can go with a 1 extra forward, 1 extra defenseman, that's probably something that can serve them well in the long run when it comes to accruing cap space.
Kenny, 2 topics I want to quickly hit with you before we're done. First, the other big positive, and listen, there were so many of them, we could focus on a number of them. Big picture, though, for me, the way the power play looked, and we talked about it at the end of the preseason. We saw it again last night. I mean, it just it looks like all the work that they put in training camp and through the preseason on it is paying off. What were your observations of that unit and the potential for it to be significantly better than it was last year?
Yeah, just outstanding puck movement, and it starts with the entries. I mean, we know that Nikolai Ehlers is a zone entry machine, but it's not like Ehlers was the only guy involved in the zone entries. The second power play goal was just exceptional puck movement. Gabriel Velarde on the zone entry, whipping it across to Ehlers, then Ehlers finding Scheifele, who, again, I got to say quickly, I mean, Mark Scheifele had the power play goal, but he had a breakaway in the opening minute, and he had a really good chance in the second period that just kind of was stopped or sailed wide, one or the other. So for me, really involved there. But the power play movement, the motion, Davis Payne talked about the pop position in the high slot, you previously referred to as the bumper by a number of different coaches, but Ehlers involved in that spot. But I just love the motion and the ability. Again, the Kyle Connor shot is vintage Connor, right? Huss, I mean, there's a defenseman screening. There's Velarde on the back post. There's Ehlers with his stick in the slot for a redirect. Again, it looked like Stuart Skinner. I'm not saying he was cheating on Connor, but he definitely had to be cognizant of the other options around him. And when it's not just a static, stationary, on the half wall, at the top, over to the other side, one-timer, it's a lot tougher to defend, right? When there's all that motion and players comfortable kind of moving around within the motion. We always use the, Capitals and Lightning as the examples of power plays that have that great motion, even though there are one-timer options, obviously, or, in terms of those structures as well. And it just means the Jets will be more dangerous, Huss. And I would even say, too, that their second unit is going to be dangerous also because of some of the weaponry they have there, whether it's Miller in that one-timer position or if they go with the 4 forwards and 1 defenseman with Pionk at the top. So, yeah, special teams obviously massive. And again, as small as it sounds, like 1 kill against the Oilers kind of counts almost like it doesn't in the stats, Huss, but it's almost like trying to kill off 2 penalties when you're going up against McDavid and company because of the weaponry with Bouchard, Bouchard, McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent, Hopkins on that top unit. So kudos to them as well. It's something that, again, small sample size, the smallest of sample sizes, as my colleague Mike McIntyre pointed out in his piece in the Free Press today. But a lot of positives for the Jets. Now, again, there are things they're going to have to improve on. And I know that it's in your chat, Huss. It was in ours last night and in almost every other chat. Oh, what's wrong with the second line? They weren't as dangerous. Now, it's true. They weren't as dangerous, Huss. That's a fact. Cole Perfetti with the only shot attempt from the threesome there with Vladislav Nemesnikov and Nikolai Ehlers. But again, I didn't see a lot of generation from that group, but I also didn't see them getting hemmed in on their end all game long either. Perfetti, I think, is moving very well. But again, Huss, how often do we have to talk about this? When a player misses the start of camp, no matter how hard he's worked or what his summer was like, and in Cole's case, May 1st to September 20th, when you miss the reps in practice, you're kind of you're chasing it a little bit. So again, I'm not blaming Cole for that line's lack of production yesterday because I thought he was moving well, but the chemistry, they needed more reps together, and now they're kind of getting those reps in real time. So again, I expect them to click. They've been guys that have clicked before, but again, if we're looking at, picking of nits as we do over the course of 82, I think the second line would be the first to tell you, Huss, that they probably want to generate a little bit more against the Chicago Blackhawks on Friday night.
Well, that actually was the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I was
Sure.
going to leave it till the end.
That's all good.
You kind of went over your thoughts on it, but I'll put this to you. What needs to happen, do you think, for this line to give the Winnipeg Jets what they're hoping for from that second line? And how close do you think they are to that, to being there?
Yeah, I mean, you have the skill sets that will work together, right? I mean, Vladislav Nemestikov and Nikolai Ehlers are guys who are comfortable playing together. Perfetti got lots of reps with Ehlers over the course of last season. So you have vision. You have the vision of Perfetti. You have the goal, the shooting ability. You have the ability of Nikolai Ehlers to be involved with his speed, pushing the defense back. You have the, two-way presence, the Swiss Army knife, as Craig Button joked yesterday, Huss, from Nemestikov, the defensive conscience and responsibility there. Cole's a guy who's been, smart defensively as well. But you need to get those guys on the same page and sort of seeing them go into holes and make the reads and everything else. I just didn't feel like they were in sync or in unison as much yesterday. Again, for all the people saying Brad Lambert, when Brad Lambert's there's a lot more speed, or there's some additional speed, but now it's Cole Perfetti as the best defensive player on that line. So I get it. Some people, want to say go all offense, go all the time, but for a team that's trying to be defensively sound as their identity, I mean, to me, I understand why they went with Vladislav Nemestikov in that role to start the season. So I do think they'll get it figured out. And again, obviously, you want to switch things up there at some point and maybe try Perfetti in the middle. Again, Scott O'Neill has told the reason why. I mean, it's a tough responsibility down low, and then you're also having to get north and getting involved offensively. So that's why Vladislav Nemestikov is there. Will it stay that way forever? Not necessarily, but they're certainly going to be given more runway. And I'm there to say they should provide more runway, because the Jets, they abandoned the center experiment too early last year, in my opinion. And I know Brandon has shared the same thought. I mean, 3 games was not enough of a sample size to figure out if Cole could be a centerman at the NHL level. But based on where things are at with him and the team right now, they'll sort that out. But I expect those guys to get it figured out and it'll be humming along as they move on. But, on nights when the checking line, which is actually the second line in terms of minutes, can get involved with 3 goals, then there's of course no concerns when the second line has a quiet night like this one did. But guess what? And the fourth line also got involved. So on a night when special teams is solid and 3 out of the 4 lines score, I mean, doesn't matter if that's the second line, the third line, or the fourth line that's not on the board. Teams will take that any day, Huss. And again, it's just a matter of time before those guys get going. And again, like I said, I expect Kyle Connor to be in the 45 to 50 goal range. I think this is the year that Ehlers is north of 30, and not just because he's on the top power play unit. He's going to be a driver on that second line, and I expect him to continue to improve his play at 5-on-5 as his ice time increases and things move along.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as Cole at center, I mean, I'm probably on the other side of that one.
Sorry, I'm not advocating for him right now. I just think that it's hard.
He needs to get it going as a winger first before
for sure
start doing that. And I mean, I just think back to the way things started last year. I think at that Vegas game, I mean, I think they did the right thing by the player right there, because he was getting run everywhere. I mean, it wasn't ready for that spot. And
I'm not saying he's ready today, Huss. I'm just saying that it was a quick abandonment, but that was more related to the Jets trying to wash away the smell of the previous year and how it ended in the second half. So, I mean, I understand that. And this is a team that wants to get off to a good start. I think that Cole is right now best suited to be a winger. I'm just saying, don't break Vladislav Nemestikov, Ehlers, and Perfetti up after 3 games if they don't, have 6 goals. Because, Huss, you and I remember talking about this at the start of last year. Even though it was a quiet start for that line, Nino Niederreiter had about 6 golden chances, 2 of which were off the post against Calgary in Game 1. So what it looked like that line hadn't produced, it had more to do with the finish rather than the generation. Whereas yesterday, there just wasn't a lot of generation at 5-on-5 from those guys. But I would expect that would be a little more prevalent for those guys against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Well, can't wait for tomorrow night, game number 2, the home opener, and then our old pals, the Minnesota Wild, coming in on Sunday. We'll look forward to you and Rennie firing it up after the games on the KNR channel, and I know you'll have lots cooking. You wanna plug anything for us to look forward to in the Free Press heading into the weekend?
Well, we'll have our second edition of Dump and Chase. Again, with the Hawks coming to town, I think Connor Bedard will probably be leading that off. Also, too, I think we're in a unique situation here, Huss, that the Hawks were in Utah for the opener. So I'm going to get some reaction from some of the Hawks players on what it was like to be in the building for that moment for the Utah Hockey Club. It seemed like it was done really well. Love the fact that they got their NBA player on skates for the, again, ceremonial face-offs. Just get rid of, ceremonial face-offs in most situations, but in a new market where the NBA guys want to get involved, get all the NBA guys out in skates and show that they can twirl around, like you said. So, other than that, just standard operating procedure. Snuck in a quick round at Elmhurst yesterday as the tour is wrapping up for the season. And, of course, I was off. Mike was working. So I got ready at night to do my work. So it was great to get out. I was out with Derek Ingram and Garth Goodbranson and just had a glorious day out there, Huss. So it's one of those classics. We get to October. It was a tough year on the scoring front, as I've told you on a number of occasions. But in the last weekend, I've had a couple of nines at 40, so it was kind of exciting, and I'm just wishing that
the game, man, it keeps you coming back, coming back.
Exactly. So anyways, great to be with you. Have a great chat with Brandon, and have an awesome weekend. Should be a fun football game. It's a power packed Friday in Manitoba's capital here, so certainly a lot on the line, and they already announced a sellout, right, Huss? So I mean, that's
the Bombers. The Bombers.
Yeah, so I mean, fun and festive atmosphere there.
I mean, it is an absolute travesty that Winnipeg fans have to choose between these two games. I don't need to get on another rant about that. I cannot believe that this is happening again, and it's very unfortunate. I think it's definitely not a good thing for the Jets, knowing that the Bomber game, and there's a lot of people that would normally be at that game, are going to have to choose. But hopefully that can get fixed in the future. And bottom line, whether you're at Princess Auto Stadium or whether you're at Canada Life Centre tomorrow night, there's a couple great games and big-time games for both of our local teams coming tomorrow. Wiebe, thanks so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and thanks, Brandon, for the swap of the timing. So appreciate it. Have a great day, fellas. Cheers.
Yeah, you got it. Brando's coming up right away. Before that, though, I do want to get to a little fan feedback on Winnipeg Sports Talk from our friends at Fans First. Fans First is your best option for buying and selling tickets with no fees. What you see is what you pay. A great place to pick up a couple tickets if you're last minute, and certainly if you are a season ticket holder like myself, there is no better place to list and sell your tickets if for whatever reason you're not able to go to the game. Go to fansfirst.ca for both your buying and selling needs on the resale market. Fans First, by fans, for fans. No fees. And you can imagine the amount of fan feedback today. A lot of love for the power play. And now that's sort of seconding, of all the things that went well for the Jets last night, the thing that I think we all wanted to see the most was an improved power play. They worked on it a lot through the preseason and training camp, and 2 for 3 last night. We'll take those numbers pretty much each and every night. Dom Zappia said the Oilers look slow, especially on D, not as good as last year. Guys, I was on with the fellas in Edmonton today, and yes, did a little bit of a victory lap, which was fun, but there's real concern. I mean, the amount of ease which the Winnipeg Jets passed through the cross-ice seams was really, really concerning. And listen, they've turned it around with 3 new defensemen, a bunch of new forwards, some of which did not have an impact. That team's going to be fine. McDavid and Draisaitl are not going to allow this team to have a massive step back this year, but you do wonder about that hangover. Lots of talk about Hayden Fleury. And SK says, thinking Hayden will get better the more comfortable he gets and believes more of himself, etc. Hey, listen, I mean, it was a nice start. I mean, he's taken advantage of the fact that there's a couple of injuries. Whether that spot's there for him when Stanley and Ville Heinola are healthy again, not sure. But, he's got the opportunity right now to, run with it. And it doesn't look like these guys are back imminently. So, huge spot for Hayden Fleury. And then Kevin Kowalik, looking forward to the TSN broadcast. Sort of side, Dan is awesome. I think Kevin's actually really come around the last couple of years as well. I know he took some heat in the chat early on. And then comment, so you're saying 82-0 is possible. Well, it's not possible if you don't go 1-0. So as of right now, technically, yes, I guess it is possible. Comment. I won't hold my breath. Again, fan feedback is brought to you by fansfirst.ca. By fans, for fans, no fees. We will get to some Bomber talk as well with the latest from practice and feeding up this upcoming game. All our Bomber reports brought to you by Princess Auto. And, of course, Princess Auto Stadium is going to be packed again tomorrow night for the Bombers and Argos, a win. And the Bombers will host the West Final on November 9th here in Winnipeg. Check out the Princess Auto tailgate zone 2 hours before the game if you're heading there early. Which you should if you're going to the game. $5 beers, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, entertainment, inflatables for the kids. It is the place to be. And, of course, Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, proud sponsors of the Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. 2 locations in town, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. I hope the F&B people at Princess Auto Stadium are ready for another sellout, and that's going to mean stocking up on Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, and the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Canadian Club is available throughout Princess Auto Stadium at all Blue Bomber games and stadium events. You can also pick up Canadian Club and ginger ale at the games. If you haven't tried it, just an amazing drink to maybe change it up from beer. And speaking of beer, you can get CC and Ginger at just about all local beer stores when you're popping in as well. Huge thanks to Canadian Club for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Pick it up at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And listen, as we get into fall, our friends at Wallace & Wallace are busy finishing up hundreds of fencing jobs around the city as the fencing and overhead door specialist in town. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, give them a call. They've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if you need a new garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a call, 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. And as we bring in Brandon, a very well-dressed individual himself, guys, if you're looking into your closet and realize it's time to up your menswear game heading into the new season, get on down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. F is unmatched with the best in custom men's clothing, including custom suits beginning at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of men's accessories in town. Get on down to 190 Smith Street in person. You can also check them out online and make an appointment to come in and see them for a fitting at that's EPHapparel.com. All right, the host of Skates and Plates and our pal Brandon Rewucki joins us now. It was quite a way to get the season going, wasn't it?
Not bad. Not bad for perfection, I guess, right? Yeah, that'll. Hey, if you're gonna make us stay up till midnight, especially those of us with parents to watch those of us with parents, those with little kids to watch a hockey game, then yeah, 5 rip after 40 minutes is the way to do it. And then all we needed was the PAT, Huss, and it would have been the perfect night. But 6-0, we'll take that any day of the week.
I mean, like we've kind of just been going over last night's game, and I mean, there's so many areas you can kind of focus in that were great. I mean, I'm particularly excited about how the power plays looked really through the end of the preseason, but also tomorrow. We know how important that is. And listen, big time performances from Josh Morrissey, Dylan Sandberg on the blue line. And of course, I mean, we really should start off with the Lowry line. I mean, the captain got it going. His line once again setting the tone. Appleton with a big offensive game, but number 17 in the middle setting the tone and starting it off with the first goal of the season.
Yeah, and I think Ken made a good remark there right before I hopped on here, and that, if anybody still calls them the third line, it's time we kind of put that to bed officially, because, I mean, to be honest, whether it be by total ice time or even impact, that's been the second line for quite some time here at Winnipeg. And so they took it to Edmonton and did so against some high-end offensive skill. I mean, it was the prototypical what you would expect out of a modern checking line type of a game from Lowry, Appleton, and Niederreiter. I thought Nino was amazing. Lowry deservedly gets all the plaudits, and Appleton production-wise had a big night. But, I mean, even on that first Appleton goal, that's not a third-liner type of a pass, right? To get a stretch play like that, whip it around cross ice right onto the stick of Appleton. We're pretty fortunate here to have that group as a trio here. And it's like, we touched on this before the season, Huss, where, how do we optimize the lineup for the Winnipeg Jets forward groups? And so many people getting on maybe the Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter line, and maybe they're being played too much, but they were effective last year going up against the best in the league. That's about as good of a start as he could have hoped for from that trio. So we could maybe talk about top six shakeups at some point in October, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm looking to break up that line anytime soon.
No, and I'm pretty sure that any coach involved is probably loath to do it. And listen, credit where credit is due. Those guys went out. I mean, we kind of had the conversation. There's some people in the chat that have sort of been, and like I brought it up, it just seems strange to me because of the career that Appleton had last year. And, we can talk about minutes and deployment. I mean, not all minutes are created equal, and those guys are playing the toughest minutes against the best competition more often than not every night. You add in the production that they had and the impact that they've had, and I mean, why would you not go back to that to begin the season? And certainly they backed their coach up with that decision with the performance as well. The top line was interesting. I mean, I thought that they did have their moments in their own end, not very much though, and then really started to feel it at times. And I mean, we know Kyle Connor's Mr. Game 1. He scores every year. He's now the NHL record holder with 7.
What a weird stat, too.
7 straight opening games where he has scored in. Scheifele led the team in shots on goal with 4, with 1-1. And while it wasn't as he wasn't as on the score sheet as much, I am loving the potential of Gabe Vilardi to be a real impact player for the Winnipeg Jets as long as he can stay healthy. Fingers crossed, though, through one game. Pretty nice performance for that group, but right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. I feel like saying that they were fine is a bit of a disservice. But it wasn't like they weren't jumping off the page like the Lowry line. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think there were a whole lot of negatives in the trios game. And I agree. Like if you could give anybody on the Jets a full bill of health this year, I think Gabe Vilardi might be my top pick, because you just get the sense that there's a 35-goal season waiting to erupt this year if he can just stay on the ice for the majority of the season. And we didn't really see him have a major impact on the power play, but I think he's one of the best net front guys on the man advantage in the entire NHL. So that, I mean, as far as detractors of that top line go, there wasn't really a whole lot for them to take hold of in this one. They were solid. If anything, the second line was, there we go, the second or third line of Nemestikov, Perfetti, and Ehlers. That might have been maybe the most disappointing trio of the night.
It seems like a real work in progress right now. And I know Ken was saying, hey, listen, Cole had missed some of training camps. You got to give him a little bit more rope. I guess I'm here for that. That being said, these games count, and there is a lot on the shoulders of this club and of this line, to be a line that is productive when they're out there. And the more productive they are, I think the more ice time that they'll get. But it really was apparent that I think this unit right now is going to be a work in progress early in the season.
Well, and this is the crappy part about breaking down the first game of the season is like it's all we've seen, right? And so
that's it.
Yeah, like you're almost inclined to make these absolute judgments, like, oh my gosh, that line is never going to work. Like they were just, well, it wasn't the performance we wanted, right? But like in all reality, it was one game. Yeah. I mean, even look at the Oilers. Like the Oilers were horrible, but like no one's expecting that to continue throughout the season. So It sucks. It's kind of a cop out to say, but it's one of those things where you need to see 4, 5, 6 games in a row out of this exact lineup. And then at least then you can maybe make some kind of alterations or assessments on what's working, what's not working, who's going, who's not going. But as far as 60 minutes last night, yeah, I think they would say that their game wasn't up to par in terms of what the other 3 forward lines were bringing there. So no real major concern for me about that trio because they have performed well in the time they were together in the first half last season. But no doubt that there can be a bigger height reached, and wouldn't necessarily be shocked if we see that tomorrow night against Chicago.
Well, I would love that. And I mean, this is such a big year for Oilers. Listen, I mean, it is a unique dynamic right now with this club, and I don't think we've ever been in a situation like this before, where you have a team that, most of the players, a big part of a team that had such a solid, 110-point season last year. You've got, 5 guys on unrestricted, pending UFA status. You've got a number of RFAs. And you've got at least 3 young players that are knocking on the door, ready to say, hey, it's my time, and I am in this lineup. And, I mentioned this at the start of the show, but, I mean, I do see a path that, the convergence of all of those factors creates a real level of competition to be on the roster and to stay in the lineup. And listen, for guys both as a team, but also individually, brings out the best in them as you would expect in a contract year because of what's riding on it for the individuals. And I mean, if that can come together in a real positive way, maybe we do have a season where the Winnipeg Jets are looking like they did last year, doing what they did last year through the regular season, and potentially pushing into triple digits, which is not where most people have them pegged.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess it depends if you're thinking high triple digits or low triple digits. I think if you're thinking that they're not going to crack 100 points is a little bit outlandish, because I do think, even with, a little bit of regression in some areas, I think there were enough areas of improvement that this team was going to be in and around that 100-point mark. The kind of funny thing about the Jets, and I forget who tweeted it last night, but they made mention of, the last team I would want to face is the Winnipeg Jets through the month of October, November, December.
Yeah.
So it's it's one of those weird things. It's not quite where the Maple Leafs are, where the regular season is completely meaningless. And all that matters is what happens at the end of the year. But we've seen this script before from the Jets, right? Where they've gotten off to these hot starts. And I mean, last year they were borderline flawless through the first couple months of the season. It's going to be, can they maintain that level heading into the new year, right? And is that level of competition that you mentioned maybe going to be enough to push that up? I think it's definitely a factor in that. And it might just take one injury or one benching for the guys that are on the NHL roster right now to look around and go, I'm not safe unless it's 100% every single night. So I totally get that from where you're coming from here, but it is interesting now that you bring back this same group of players. The games obviously still mean a lot these first couple of months, but that's ultimately where judgment is going to come on this team, right?
Here's the
what
thing.
happens when January, February
comes wilt in the second half of the season. I mean, far from it. I mean, they finished with 110 points. Now, they played terribly in the playoffs. And I mean, it wasn't even close to the standard they'd set in the regular season. It wasn't as good. And I think we all agree that you need to be better than you were in the regular season when the stakes are raised, the competition is raised. And we haven't seen that. But for everyone saying, well, listen, this is all just about the playoffs, this is a good league. There's a lot of good teams. This is a meat grinder of a division. There's nothing guaranteed to anybody. And to just think that we're going to sit around and watch this team waltz into the playoffs, especially while so many people are saying this isn't a playoff team, all of these games are important. A good start is important. And I will remind everybody, just ask the Edmonton Elks or the Hamilton Tiger Cats if the games at the first half of the season count as much in the second half of the season, because you certainly can play yourself out of it early with the terrible start. Overall, it will be good. And I will say this. I mean, I was thinking that there'd be some natural regression because so many things that went well last year. After seeing the power play and what they were able to do in game one, if that can continue, Brandon, I mean, that alone should make up for, the regression of 2 or 3 wins that maybe don't happen the way they happened last year, because of what an Achilles heel that sort of was last year for the Jets, despite what they were able to do in the standings.
So it was that last preseason game for the Jets that they had this year. And I was like, there's been more movement in this preseason game than there was all of last season on the power play.
I said the exact same thing on the show the next day. It was exciting.
It was. How could you not be? It was like, and crazy too, that it was basically the same players, right? Like obviously Ehlers, and there was maybe 1 or 2 other changes there, but it just looked like a completely different unit. And so I think with an emphasis on movement, with an emphasis on fluidity, I mean, there's no way they're going to be as bad as they were last year. I can't see that happening. Like I mentioned too, Velarde being a great net front presence there. I think there's an understanding of what they need to do to be successful. Whereas last season, it just seemed like there was a complete ineptitude to figure out the shortcomings of that, specifically that first power play unit. So I totally agree there. I mean, you could look at special teams as a whole. Now, the penalty kill is going to be something that might not really get a good read on that until a few more games into the season. And I get it's just one game, but man, I'll be beyond shocked if that power play isn't top half of the NHL. And that's the thing too, Huss, is that they don't need to be a top 3 unit for the Jets to either, maintain where they were last year or be above 100 points. 13th would be amazing, right? Like that's the thing when you talk about the special teams, is they don't need them to jump from bottom 5, bottom 10 up into the top 5, top 10. It's just be above average. And that's going to be a massive, massive boost to this team. And to be honest, that's how the New York Rangers have put together 110-point seasons for the majority of the last 5 years. Is 5-on-5. Yeah, we'll be okay, but we'll dominate the special teams with high-end goaltending. And that's a pretty good, it might not be the most repeatable way, but if you've got it, go ahead and use it. And so I think the Jets can definitely replicate a little bit of what the New York Rangers have been doing these past few seasons.
Well, and listen, I mean, they got a stud in net, and the Jets certainly have their stud in net. I kind of laughed when I heard that there was the report that, Shesterkin had turned down $88 million for 8 years and 11 per. And I watched Hellebuck last night starting this extension at 8.5, and you realize that that extension that happened a year ago that kind of locked him into Winnipeg for the foreseeable future and likely the rest of his career, going to turn out to be money pretty well spent. Just before we go, thoughts on the Jet blue line, Hayden Fleury's debut, and Dylan Sandberg moving up to that second line, scoring and having a real strong game in his first chance to really be a regular in that top 4.
Yeah. In the sense that maybe not all the forward lines were A+ yesterday, I thought all the D pairs were great. That's exactly the most promising sign you could have hoped for from the blue line there. I mean, I think, at least for me, I'm done putting a ceiling on Josh Morrissey. I think he's going to make a phenomenal big push. Yeah, he's getting better and better, and I think he's going to be. I really think he's going to be a top 5 Norris guy by the end of the season. Can he catch the Makars, the Hughes, the Foxes? I mean, they're pretty ridiculous, but I really don't think he's going to be extremely far behind. And let's not forget last year, how impressive his season would have looked if the power play was half decent too. So with a much better power play, I think Morrissey's going to have a real standout career season this year. I think Sandberg as well looked great. And, I was on board with the decision to move on from Brendan Dillon during the offseason. And I like the assertiveness that he played with too. Like there was a level of confidence from Sandberg's game that maybe we hadn't seen in the past couple of seasons. And I mean, yes, the goal was great and everything, but even more than that, it's the decision to jump up into the play and then be willing to take the shot. That I think is a really encouraging sign for what he's going to give the team this year. And Colin Miller's been great every time he's put on the Jets jerseys. So again, no issues there. And Hayden Fleury was just, a stud for taking a puck to the face and getting right back in there, but just kind of a solid, dependable number 6 guy. And the Jets don't really need a ton, a lot of high-end performance from that third pair, because I think Colin Miller is going to be a really good player this season. just needs a dependable partner beside him. And so I think Fleury showed well. But Morrissey, for sure, to me, watching him play in that game, I was like, especially on a nice surface with McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard as well with his breakout season on the other end. I thought Morrissey, again, is the best player on the ice. And I think first team All-Star is certainly within his grasp this year. He's just getting better and better, and it's going to be fun to see these next couple of seasons, what ultimately his ceiling's going to be. But like I said, not going to put a cap on that at this point, because he's finding a way to elevate himself each and every year.
Pretty fun conversation today, coming off a win in that fashion over that team in game number 1 of the season. And meanwhile, we've been having similar conversations for about 2 months about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. How about the turnaround of this team right now as they get ready to take on the Argos tomorrow night in front of a sold-out Princess Auto Stadium? 1 win away from clinching the West with games to spare after starting 0-4 and 2-6.
I think it's more the 2-6 or 2-7. Like, that part of it was crazy. You could almost understand maybe just starting
8
the year.
games into the year.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like, I could understand maybe, hey, we had a tough start to the year, we figured it out. But halfway through the season, they were basically slotted for dead last. And it's just a completely different team. It really, really is remarkable. And even like, looking back at some of those early performances, I mean, there were a lot of whisper, hey, does Zach still have it? Right? Like, the offense just looked completely out of sorts. Is Mike O'Shea still able to press the right buttons? Can he still get this team to where they were? Are they over the hill, too old? All that stuff. And absolutely not. I know there's some pretty stiff competition with the top of the East Division over there, but pretty hard not to have the Bombers, and football, more than any sport, I think, is where whoever's playing the best at the end of the year is usually the one that ends up lifting the hardware. And so I think with what the Bombers have done, solidifying the O-line, the offense has turned it around from their slow start, and the defense has really just been quietly, consistently great all year long.
The D started the whole comeback, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I mean, I think back of that, the shutout of BC when the Bombers were like, going head-to-head, back-to-back with the team that was in a very different spot than they were. They started the whole thing. And, I mean, the job that Jordan Younger has done with this team has been amazing. And you know what? One more step to go, and then start making plans for November 9th, outdoors, Princess Auto Stadium, against either the Riders or the BC Lions for a trip to Vancouver and the Grey Cup. Season's back, skates and plates fully back. What's kicking and on tap for tomorrow when you drop another ep?
Yep, little breakdown. We'll do a breakdown of the episode, breakdown of the season opening win, and then a breakdown of the parade route, where we need to start, where we need to finish. All about perspective to start the year.
I love it. Thanks a lot, dude. Always great having you on the program.
Sounds good. Have a good weekend. We'll talk next week.
All right. There's Brandon Rewucki. Great stuff. Check out Skates and Plates wherever you get your favorite podcast, potentially Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hopefully it is. Let's get Michael Remis back in here. And Remo, I do want to hear from Coach Arneal and Captain Adam Lowry, but as expected, these were going to be a couple fun conversations. I mean, yes, often the mood of fans and the tone and the narrative around the team can certainly change from game to game. But that was a hell of a way to start off the season. I knew it was going to be a fun and well-attended show live on YouTube today in WST.
Yeah, almost 500 people here. I thought it would be, well-attended show, as you said, after a convincing 6-0 win. Everyone excited. And if you are here, of course, subscribe. We're here every day, 1 to 3. And I do have in the pinned comments, our social media accounts have some good stuff on Instagram. Sports Talk WPG. I don't know if you saw this. Someone, a listener who's a fan of the marble race, so tune in tomorrow at 3 o'clock, made a very lovely drawing of us. Do you see this?
I don't think so.
Check this out, Huss. Becca Riley Art on Instagram made this lovely drawing.
Right on.
A Winnipeg Sports Talk sketch for my dear old dad. He got me listening to these guys every week. so I can participate in the most epic marble races you could ever imagine. So that's me. That's me and you. That's pretty cool.
Becca, we appreciate you and love the photo. We'll have to say a follow Becca's way. Well, hey, listen, while we're doing a quick art segment on the program, listen, it was a big game yesterday for the Lock Shop. Obviously, the Edmonton Sports Talk guys on the Edmonton side of things. All of my Winnipeg supporters popping in there. We've got a lot of fun. We hit the Winnipeg Sports Talk parlay, which was the Jets to win, Kyle Connor to score, Josh Morrissey to get a point. And Remo, if you go to my Twitter right now, somebody in Edmonton thanking me for the WST parlay has done their own Photoshop job with the new Ride with Huss photo. Have you can you see that? There it is. And I love the fact that they cropped out my photo with the bomber colored WST hat as well. So a lot of swag in that photo. Pretty nice whip. And again, we encourage all of you, if you have other artistic offerings for us, fire them in, and we'll get it up on the show. I laughed big time when I saw that.
Well done, Huss. Did Edmonton, people from Edmonton take the Winnipeg Sports Talk parlay last night? You know, an emotional hedge?
A couple of people did, I think, just because I've been so hot lately. Like they are just, against their better judgment, they rode with me, and it ended up paying off. So, hey, listen, if that's what we can do, great. We'll get to the Coolbet lines later on. We had a fun lock shop today. There's a bunch of good hockey games tonight. We got an NFL game. We got 2 Major League Baseball games. So we will get to all of that. But listen, I mean, we should hear from Coach Arniel. Scott got his first win as head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, and obviously very pleased with the result and how his team played. Here's what Arnie had to say after win number 1 as the official head coach of the Jets last night in Edmonton.
You know, coming into this building and obviously first one of the year, you know, you go through training camp, you're kind of sort of building and trying to put everything, all the pieces together. And, you know, I just thought we were real solid as a team there. We just come out and one line went out and did what they needed to do. The next line come out and did the same thing. And lots of good stuff, and you know, obviously it's to win in the way we did is big, and against that team is, you know, it's a road win and in a tough barn, and we'll take that and move on.
They'll definitely take that, especially in the fashion that they had it. Led by Adam Lowry and his line. Coach Arniel talked about his captain, along with Nino and Appleton. They had such a big game last night.
Yeah, and we saw that picture last year lots, and yeah, that line in the first period there, scoring the 2 goals, you know, it took a little bit of the wind out of Edmonton's sails there for us. It got us really up on the bench and got everybody going, and there's not a whole, you know, tough recipe with those guys. It's pucks in and get after them and go make people turn pucks over with their pressure. And the best part too is you can always rely on them when they don't have it. They're doing a great job. They don't spend a lot of time in their end of the rink, and that's how the offense comes from.
All right, a little bit more from the coach on the defense making plays. Dylan Sandberg scoring, and a couple just brilliant setups from Josh Morrissey.
Yeah, I think that's something we've talked about, you know, for the last couple of years, that our D had to be a part of. If you look around the league, teams that score, teams that 5-on-5 that have success, their D are a big part of it. And so we stressed that over the years, and we want those guys to make plays. They're out in the ice just like everybody else. You have a play to make it. And you're right, we did some good things. I thought we got out of our end. Third period was a little bit sloppier, but at the end of the day, I thought we got out of our end real quick, especially in that first period. It just kind of got Edmonton on their heels a little bit.
All right, a little bit more from Scott Arniel. You know, we know how much focus the new coaching staff put on special teams and especially the power play through the preseason. Obviously, the coach very happy to see the power play score right away when given the opportunity last night.
I mean, the mindset Davis been kind of throwing at them is attack the net as quick as possible. Don't let the penalty kill get into structure. And, once that shot happens, it kind of creates the explosion. What happens off of that? And so, great example, Casey. That shot coming off of there. That's a good look with Fly being right there and Gabe being on that back door. So we had numbers, and it was a great shot.
All right, and one more from the coach. He had a number of wins last year as the interim head coach when Rick Bowness was away, but last night was his first official win as head coach of the Jets. Here's what he had to say about that.
That's nice. Obviously, it's great. I mean, just to kind of get the season off on a good note. And I did have a sleepless night just worrying about some of these guys on that on the other team there, and how powerful they are as a group. But you want to go through camp, and you want to make sure you have a good start to the year, and this was a good way of doing it.
There's Jets head coach Scott Arniel, and again, congratulations to Arnie for win number 1. Definitely a memorable one, and I'm sure he had a better sleep last night than he did, as he mentioned, the lack thereof going into game number 1 against the Edmonton Oilers. Listen, it was very clear, and we played this at the beginning, the emotional Connor Hellebuck afterwards, who's been, dealing with some things going on in his family. Adam Lowry talked about Helly coming back to the team after the time away and doing what he did last night, shutting the door on the high-powered Oilers.
It's not easy, anytime you have things going on in your family and your personal life, and we're all, just really thinking about their family, and but to be away with the team, and obviously family comes first, but to come back and to have the game he did, he's been so incredible throughout his career for us, and we don't expect any different, but under the circumstances, I think it's extra special. I'm glad we were able to preserve the shutout for him, and we're just really happy that he was able to do this tonight, and we're going to continue kind of just trying to support him all weekend.
All right, now the Lowry line set the tone. Adam scored, Appleton scored, got that 2-goal lead. And then it was the fourth line. And of all people, Rasmus Kupari, his first goal as a Winnipeg Jet after going 0 in 28 games last season. He was noted the fourth line center coming in. We talked a lot about it that, with the other guys that are knocking on the door, I think there's some real pressure to, add a little bit of production to the game that comes with so much speed. Lowry talked about the Kupari line getting on the board after they set the tone in period 1.
Arnie was even surprised when we said that's his first as a Jet. So, but I think it was. Looking back last year, you ask him. There was an adjustment period. He kind of in and out of the lineup. He gets hurt, and he kind of. It's not that he had trouble finding his footing, but we were playing so well. It was tough to find minutes, and he's such a good person. You kind of would never know that he's. Not playing. He comes to the rink with a great attitude, and he had a great summer. I think that's one thing I noticed in camp is the decisions he was making on the ice. I think there's a maturity to his game that's taken a step forward, and it's going to be critical. Getting contributions up and down our lineup. You've seen what he's been able to do on the PK in the preseason, and we see his skill every day on display in practice. But for him to convert and get that one going, it's got to be a good feeling for him, and obviously we were all really excited for him too.
Yeah, a little bit of finish for the Finn in his first game of the year, Remo, and we can't talk about the Kupari goal without talking about the absolutely brilliant pass from Josh Morrissey that put it right on his stick, and he finished.
Yeah, Josh Morrissey, he's been a great player for the Jets, stepped up the offensive game, plays big minutes, as you said, and finding guys, across the ice, puts it on the tape, and Kupari puts it in the back of the net. So made it easy for him there, but sometimes those don't get converted. And again, Josh, great game with the breakout passes there, but that fourth line certainly a huge impact as well. And nice to see them get on the board. So nice game for Kupari. Maybe a breakout, because that's what Mike said yesterday in the show. What's a breakout for Kupari? 1 goal? Well, hey, could be on his way. We'll have to see how this plays out.
His career high is 5. The thought is that he's progressed as a player and he can do more. I was out watching the game with a good friend of mine that is fully on the Rasmus Kupari breakout campaign trail. and we made a wager. And he says Rasmus Kupari gets double-digit goals this year. We've got a dinner at Ray and Jerry's on it. And I said, I will happily pay this bet off if Kupari can get 10 or more on the season. And if that's the case, I think that would mean that he locks down the spot, plays a lot, and obviously stays in the lineup. So great start for Kupari. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, I had questions as to, how he was ahead of Gus, because I was really impressed with Gus last year. I thought he was, one of the better players in the playoffs. I think he's real solid defensively. But they think very highly of Rasmus Kupari. He's got blazing speed. If he can round out the rest of that game, good things can happen. So anyways, great night for Kupari to get his first as a Jet in game number 1 of the season. The one guy that always scores in the opening game is Kyle Connor. He is now the all-time, it's a bizarre stat, no other player has scored in 7 consecutive opening games of the regular season. Kyle Connor is that dude. Here's Adam Lowry on KFC scoring in his 7th straight opening game.
That's pretty remarkable, honestly. And I think he's one of the most consistent goal scorers in the NHL. He does it, in a variety of ways, but he always finds a way to end up on the score sheet, impact games. He doesn't need a lot of space. He doesn't need a lot of time, and I think it's going to be critical, that he continues this consistency for our team to succeed. Get one on the power play. The power play looked awesome tonight. So, it's remarkable for him to have 7 straight. I can't even, fathom that, to be honest.
From the captain, Adam talked about getting Scott Arniel his first win as Jets head coach last night.
We're really excited for Arnie. I think, we knew what it was going to look like with him kind of having the interim tag last year at certain points when Bones was away. But come in and, I feel like he's kind of put his own unique stamp on the team. There's been a couple tweaks to some things, and, we're happy to get it out of the way in the first game. He's a competitive guy, but he makes coming to the rink fun. He's a good guy to play for, and the Oilers really kind of leave a sour taste in a lot of Jets fans from the 80s mouth. So I'm sure it's extra special for him, but like the other guys, we're thrilled for him, and hopefully we can continue this.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones. The ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right, yeah, big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug, and great news of a new partnership between Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg's favorite local beer, and our friends at Boston Pizza. It's going to be on tap. Save the date, and this is tentative. We'll confirm it next week, but I think we're going to plan to do a little Jet Road watch party at the end of the month. We're looking at October 30th. Where we'll kind of team up with our friends at Little Brown Jug and Boston Pizza, get the crew together to watch a game on the road with some fun prizes and contests and whatnot. So save that date tentatively. We'll confirm that for you next week and get all the details. But the best place to watch the season opener last night and every game this hockey season is at BP. Boston Pizza could be sending you to Boston to see the Jets and Bruins at TD Gardens. They got great game day menu with cactus cuts, the triple play platter, the spicy pierogi pizza. You'll have a chance to spin the BP prize wheel to win great BP food and great swag from Royal Sports, and get in to win Boston Pizza's grand prize trip for 2, which includes airfare, deluxe hotel, game tickets to the Jets Bruins game at TD Gardens, and BP's throwing in tickets to see the Celtics and the Bulls the night before. Watch every game this season in Boston Pizza, and you could win. Maybe we'll have some WST winners when we get together at BP for that game in a couple weeks. to get in for the trip to Boston. Wouldn't that be cool? And we mentioned they're also giving away some great swag from Royal Sports when it comes to Winnipeg Jets merchandise, jerseys, hoodies, hats, toques, you name it. No better place than Royal with the biggest inventory in town, along with all the Bomber gear you need to get ready for the playoffs and the push for another Grey Cup. Not to mention all the NHL teams represented, National Football League, and more. And Royal Sports is also, of course, the hockey superstore in town for over 40 years. Whether you need a full kit of goalie equipment or player equipment, a new stick, or something as simple as expert skate sharpening, stick tape, and pucks, Royal Sports has it all for you. It's all there waiting for you, 750 Pembina Highway. And you can also follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Remo, we've had a lot of fun talking about the Jets today. I know we talked some Bombers with Brandon Rewucki, and we're going to hear from Parker Ford coming up. We had a great sit down with him a little earlier this week, but we should quickly get to the lineup for tomorrow's game. We're hoping to have Ed Tate on with us tomorrow to kind of set everything up as the Bombers look to clinch the West. But the roster is out today, and a couple of changes from the Bombers roster. Brandon Alexander is off. Michael Ayers is also off. Coming on are DB Marquise Bridges and Bryce Notary at the linebacker position. Jake Kelly's going to start at safety for Alexander. Brian Cole's in at linebacker for Ayers. Both of those players moving to the one game. Great news for the Bombers in that the offense, which has been humming as of late, completely intact, led by, of course, Zach Collaros as QB1, and Brady Oliveira, now the favorite for the MOP in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Brady here as my pick, leading the league in rushing. There's some criticism about touchdowns, but just the way the league is, the top 5 leaders in rushing touchdowns are all quarterbacks. So he gets
backups.
Backup quarterback. He gets penalized in MOP voting because he doesn't punch it in from the one. I don't think so. He means a lot to this team. You definitely saw it in that last game when they need to run out the clock and play bully ball is that what they call it? Tire out the other team's defense. He is the guy. He's taken on a bigger role as the season has gone on, and they're looking to take ride on his back towards hosting the West Final if they win tomorrow against Toronto. So this MOP has been exciting to talk about, but I think we're about to put this one to rest, and my choice would be Brady Oliveira.
Yeah, we're riding that 14-1 number that we got on Coolbet a few weeks ago. I still can't believe that was up, but it is. We're on it, and hopefully that'll cash for us in November in Vancouver. We will get to the Coolbet lines. We've got a bunch of hockey games today. We cooked up some fun stuff in the lock shop earlier. We've got baseball. We've got a football game tonight. But earlier this week, Michael and I spent the day down with the Manitoba Moose at their media production day. Got a chance to meet and sit down with a number of Moose players. And with the Moose starting their season on the road this weekend, we thought we'd fire up one of those, and we'll have a bunch over the course of the next couple weeks heading into the Moose home opener on the 26th of October. But first up, a young man that was the last cut last year of the Winnipeg Jets in his first year as a pro and had a real solid season with the Manitoba Moose, Parker Ford. Here's our sit-down with Parker Ford from down at Canada Life Centre.
Here down at Canada Life Centre, getting ready for Moose season with Parker Ford. Parker, great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk and to see you in person. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
A long off season, and now it's go time again with your teammates. How's the last few weeks been? Jets camp and getting ready to fire it up for your second year in the American League.
Yeah, it's always an exciting time during training camp. Seeing all the guys again, and just working every day, and hockey's starting up here soon, and that's the best time for us.
I remember when we spoke with you for the first time last year. It was very early into your rookie season. You had a great performance in Jet Camp, being right there until the end, and then a real strong year in the American League. Coming back for year number 2, how much more I don't know, settled, confident? Like, how much further along are you maybe in your pro, you're having that experience from year number one?
Yeah, I'd say I learned a lot last year in my rookie season, and just coming back and knowing more of the guys now, you're just that much more comfortable coming into your second season, and having a full year in the American League, you know the pace, and I kind of know more what to expect this year. So, I'm trying to build off of how I ended the season last year and just go from there.
What, like when you look back at your first year of pro hockey, what maybe stands out compared to college? I mean, it's certainly the schedule, more games, but I mean, just the pace, the competitiveness. I mean, how big of a jump was it? And, how much does that experience, as I said, sort of, help you maybe take that next step this season?
Yeah, I'd say college definitely prepared me well for the physical side of the game because, in the division I was in, it was a pretty physical game. So I wouldn't say the physicality was much different, but the players itself are much more skilled. And, if you make a mistake, usually it's in the back of your net. So that's something I learned. And, I still have a lot to work on my game and improve in the little areas. But, playing that full year in the American League, I definitely got better.
I've got to ask you about last year's season as it relates to this year. And obviously there's turnover, but a number of your teammates are back this year. And, early on in the new year, you guys were in a real funk. I mean, went a while without winning a game. And it looked like the season was maybe pretty much lost at that point. And this team completely turned it around, and it kind of felt like you were playing playoff hockey for the better part of the last couple months. I mean, what did you learn about the Moose, your team, and how can those experiences help you guys this season when you drop the puck?
Yeah, a very resilient group we had. I mean, like you said, we basically were playing for our lives the whole second half of the year, and definitely learned that belief can go a long way. We kind of came together there, and we set a goal to make the playoffs, and we just all believed in each other and kind of just added up over time, and we started to win games. And it was cool to see how hard we worked throughout the year and getting through that funk. It definitely had a lot of lessons within the year, and just it shows you how many changes can happen throughout a season.
So what was your first off season like as a pro? Did you get away from the game for a while? I mean, what did you do, and I hope you made the most of it.
Yeah, I'm from the East Coast, Rhode Island, so I'm right by the beach, so I love the water. And for a couple weeks I got away from the game and just hung out at the beach and went for a couple swims, but only a little bit, and then you're right back into training. And this job is basically a year-round job. You got to keep your body ready for all the strenuous activities we go through, and that's basically what I did.
Speaking of training, what is your favorite part of training, and what is the thing that you have to do on a regular basis as a pro hockey player that you like the least?
Well, I'd say once you get 3/4 through the summer, you're pretty much tired of the summer skates. You're ready to play some games, because for me you're not playing many games in the summer, and you kind of miss that atmosphere for sure. So I'd say just the practices themselves, they kind of get tiring, but you have to do them to get ready. So I'm really excited to get the games going and just battle.
Now, training is a big part, the physical things. We know how competitive pro sports are. How when you come for your diet, throughout the summer, does it change when you're actually playing the regular season? Are you one of these Tom Brady types that's on the TB12, or can you sort of just do what you like and you'll be out there producing?
No, well, I'll say during the season you're burning a lot of calories, obviously, and for me, I'm a guy that tends to lose a little bit of weight during the year, so it's really important for me to get all those calories in. And a lot of times I struggle with eating after games, so it's just relying on the protein shakes and stuff like that. But my sister's a nutritionist, so I rely on her a lot with my food, my diet, and she helps me out a lot, and probably rely on her a little bit too much.
Your sister might not like this question, but when you just want to go all in. I mean, the cheat meal of cheat meals. What do you eat when you can not care at all about it?
Yeah, there's probably a lot there, but I don't know. I'd say just like your typical like nice burger, like a good burger and fries, and maybe a steak and cheese, something like that. Maybe some dessert at the end, a little ice cream. But
what about fast food? If you power ranked all your fast food joints, either here or abroad, what would be number one?
You know, it's tough. I'm not a big fast food guy, to be honest with you. But I'd probably say, if I were to go, it's probably McDonald's. You know, I like a good McFlurry and maybe a Big Mac.
Old Faithful as well. What about music? Where are we at? If you are controlling the jukebox, the playlist, if you will, in the Moose dressing room, what are your teammates going to be getting hit with?
Yeah, I mean, the Euros might not enjoy this one, but I like country. And that's basically, if I'm listening to something, it's that. I went to the Zach Bryan concert this summer at Gillette Stadium, so big fan of him. Like Tyler Childers, pretty much anything country.
How is it's funny that you bring that up, because that is always a contentious topic. I mean, country music is huge. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest areas really of pop music right now. But people have hot takes on country either way. When you, in the dressing room, when the country's on, how would are the lines clearly drawn in the room as far as who loves it and who doesn't?
Yeah, well, I'd say when you're trying to get pumped up, country might not be your thing. I'm the type of guy, when I'm listening to music, I'm just relaxing. So I think it's more relaxing. Maybe you might need something more upbeat in the locker room, but I like it at all times.
Hey, speaking of music, if you and your Moose teammates took over a karaoke bar one night, who do you think would be the MVP of the performances?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'd probably have to give it to my roommate, Ty Bauer. He's got a pretty good voice, and he knows a lot of songs, so I'll give it to him.
People are going to be expecting me to ask you this at some point. The grill, a little dented. How did the tooth injury happen? Has it been fixed? Will it be fixed? Or is just the look as long as you're playing pro hockey?
Yeah, it happened last year during a game. I just got high-sticked. Tooth kind of exploded in my mouth, and of course, not a penalty called, so that was a little bit
even worse.
It made it that much worse, but I actually did get it fixed a couple days after. But then this summer I was eating a chicken wing and it popped out again, so it was kind of annoying. So I just said I'm not going to fix it for now, and we'll see what happens.
You mentioned Ty Bauer, a very popular member of your team, and your roommate. What's he like as a roommate? What's he like away from the ice? And how would you categorize your relationship as roomies?
Yeah. This is going on our second year of being roommates, and we're pretty close, and we have a lot of similarities. So he's a great guy. He's even though he's a young guy, he's a leader in our room, and he's a pretty tough guy. So it's a good guy to have in your corner.
Hey, let me ask you quickly about the city of Winnipeg now that you're back for year number 2. I know most of you guys stay in and around town, but what do you like about the city? And do you have a favorite restaurant that you've sort of become a bit more of a regular at over the last year?
Yeah, I'll say there is some good food in the city for sure. I'm a big food guy. Me and Ty go out a good amount. I'll say maybe a sneaky place that we've gone a couple times. It's a small Thai place. It's called Sassy Thai. I actually really like it. It's a little hole in the wall. And we go there for lunch, dinner sometimes, and I really like it there.
Well, there's a great tip for you foodies out there that are looking for some of the underpublicized spots. Parker, before we go, great to catch up again. How excited are you to get back on the ice with your teammates and start playing some of those games after all those summer skates?
I know. Like I said, I'm super excited. I'm a type of guy that loves to compete, and about the only place you can get that is in a game. So I'm really ecstatic to get on the ice and start with the Moose.
Listen, thanks again for doing this. Have a great season. We'll look forward to catching up later on this year.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, good stuff. That was a really fun day we spent down with a bunch of the Moose players. Shout out to our pal Dan Fink for helping us set that up. And great chats coming up on in future shows with Chaz Lucius, Simon Lundmark, amongst others. And this Dylan Anhorn, an absolute character. Can't wait for you to see that. So look forward to that heading into the Moose home opener over the next couple weeks here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, let's get to the Coolbet lines. Another just beautiful day in the lock shop yesterday with our WST parlay winning. Shout out to my dad. I got a late night text from him saying, I was on the WST parlay. Thank you. Gotta love it. Gotta love it that my dad had the faith in the Jets last night to make that happen. We'll get to a couple of the exclusive we cooked up in a minute, but let's first off hit the NFL game tonight. Niners and Seahawks both coming off brutal losses last week at home. The Niners choking in the fourth quarter. I hope Connor's not listening. And blowing a double-digit lead for the first time in Kyle Shanahan's career and losing at home to the Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Seahawks absolutely no-showed at home against Danny Dimes and the New York Giants, who didn't have Malik Neighbors, who didn't have Devin Singletary. San Francisco's a 3.5-point favorite in this game. It feels like they are begging us to take the home dog in the Seattle Seahawks. I normally would do that. I think of the two teams where they're at right now, how desperate San Francisco should be at 2-3 coming into this game. And then I look at how San Francisco's really handled Seattle in their last 5 games straight up, winning by double digits, and I think all but one of them. I think I'm leaning towards taking the Niners in this one and laying the points, which is not something I would normally do. What do you have? Do you have any thoughts on this big NFC West matchup tonight?
Man, the Niners kind of disappointing.
Kinda
this year, kind of
2-3.
I think I would take Seattle at home with the points. I think that's what I would do. But maybe San Francisco figures it out that they have their weapons back. I think Geno Smith's looked pretty good, and I think that's a big story this season. High drafted quarterbacks looking good with their new teams after getting out of rough situations, and he's proved that last year. So I would go Seattle at home with the points. Sure, home dog.
The only thing about Seattle is that, do we know if they're actually any good? Like, they started off 3-0. They beat the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. And then they got waxed by the Lions, even though they put up like 500 yards of offense. And then they come back and lose at home to the Giants. I just don't know what this team is. I'm expecting way more of the Niners. Won't be a big play tonight, but I think I will go on San Francisco. Now, to Major League Baseball, we've got 2 games. Guardians and Tigers go off at 5:08. Yankees and Royals at 7:08. Tough 3-2 loss for Kansas City last night. They're down to their last out, and unfortunately, Garrett Cole is on the mound for New York. New York's -154. Cleveland -120. I kind of think that I'm cheering for Kansas City. I think Cleveland and New York probably get it done tonight. And then, Remo, how about this? Full Thursday slate of games in the National Hockey League. And hey, just before we go through them, you were mentioning this is the first night of this Amazon sort of red zone thing. Fill me in on this, because I've heard of it, but I don't really know what we're talking about.
Yes, I'm really excited for this. Starting at 6 p.m. on Amazon Prime. It's free if you have a Prime subscription. They're now a rights holder for the national level. NHL, they have this coast-to-coast show. Andy Petrillo hosts. She'll be joined by a number of guests. I think PK Subban is on, and just like the old ice surfing, they'll take you from game to game. I'll be checking it out. I know Mike Kelly, who's been on this show, he's going to be a contributor to that show. I think it's going to be fun. Going to be well done. And I like what I'm hearing from Amazon. I heard Adnan Virk on the Richard Deitch podcast. He's part of the Monday Night Hockey. And there are 4 Jets games this year on Mondays that you need Prime to watch them. But they're putting on a big production, bringing in national crews. He's going to be coming to Winnipeg in February as part of the broadcast. So like what you've seen them do with Thursday Night Football, I think they're trying to do that with Monday Night Hockey. So I'm very, I think it's a pain in the ass having to go like streaming, you can't flip channels quickly. Maybe, you don't subscribe to it, but I'm excited to see what Amazon's doing because, they're not just showing a regional game nationally. They're putting an effort. They're going to put an effort into the broadcast. So we'll see how it goes.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that here in the Peg. And that Leaf game at the end of the month on Monday, October 28th, Jets Leafs at Canada Life Center is an Amazon Prime game that will not be on.
That's the one.
Regular television. As far as the NHL goes tonight, all the games that they'll be surfing around, the Habs, after that brilliant game by Manitoba last night, 47 save shutout, they go to Boston to take on the Bruins. Bruins minus 294 favorites, big time. Kings and Sabres, basically a pick'em in Buffalo for the Sabres home opener after dropping their first two over in Czech Republic, or Czechia, I believe we're supposed to call it now. Wings home opener against the Penguins, who got rocked last night in Rucker McGroarty's NHL debut. 6-0, they lost to the Rangers. Wings are minus 141 favorites. Sheldon Keefe going up against his old team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Devils, with their home opener, minus 139 favorites. Leafs plus 118. Panthers in Ottawa to take on the Sens, Kachuk Brother Bowl, minus 135 for the Panthers, plus 115 for the Sens. The Islanders host their home opener against Utah HC. Islanders minus 139 faves. Wild minus 270 against the Blue Jackets. And I'll tell you what, I'm hoping Amazon gives us a lot of this game, Remo. The game that I want to watch the most and see what we get is the, I don't know whether they will officially raise the banner today in the Predators home opener for being off-season champions. But the Preds are a slight underdog, plus 106 against the Dallas Stars, minus 125. In the final game, Blues at San Jose, St. Louis minus 159 favorite. That Dallas-Nashville game is very intriguing to me.
Yeah, a lot of games tonight. I forgot that the Devils was Sheldon Keefe revenge game against Toronto, who didn't score yesterday. They're going with Stolarz in net again, with Woll is out with back tightness. How are the Penguins going to respond after getting pumped by the Rangers last night? And yeah, Montreal won, but I think Montembeault was the first star, made a ton of saves. They're big dogs tonight. So, and I think Utah's in for a big letdown after the emotional high of their first game. So, a number of games, but yeah, Dallas, Nashville, probably the marquee. Although I like Toronto, New Jersey too. I'll be tuned into that one. So, a number of games, MLB playoffs as well. Exciting time, and I'll be tuning into that Prime. Coast to coast.
Yeah, we'll have to get it. Listen, we've been cranking out a ton of winners lately in the lock shop. We've got a couple partner parlays. We went in on the hockey. Dusty is on the Red Wings money line. I'm on the Blues, and we're going to take Boston to win in regulation for a bit better of a number. That one's boosted up to plus 395. We've got a one for the Thursday nighter. George Kittle touchdown. Jackson Smith-Jigba over 4.5 catches, and Jordan Mason to lead the game in rushing. That's plus 653. And then after the WST parlay yesterday, I am on 3 other games. It is the ride with Huss. I like Buffalo to win their home opener against the Kings. I'm taking the Islanders in their home opener against Utah HC. And I'm taking the Dallas Stars to go into Nashville and spoil the party. That one's boosted from plus 491 to plus 565. Patty's got one up there. They got the Lamplighters. And then in the exclusives, Patty's got a primetime parlay for the bit. So anyways, the exclusives and the combo cards are loaded with stuff from the lock shop today. And the account's looking pretty good, thanks to Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey, and the Jets after last night. How about tomorrow, Remo? What a big show we're going to have. Bombers, Argos, Jets, Hawks, and the Jets home opener. One of the busiest days we've had sports-wise in Winnipeg in a long time. Still choked. Fans have to choose between the two games, but certainly no shortage of options, although Bomber games sold out. So if you had been on the fence, why don't you grab a ticket and head down to the home opener? I can't wait to be there and see both of our teams hopefully win tomorrow night.
Yeah, listen to this nugget from Ed Tate and his preview at BlueBombers.com. Since 2022, and including Friday's game, the Blue Bombers have had 17 crowds of 30,000 or more. That total is more than all of the other teams combined. BC has 5 such games, Saskatchewan and Edmonton 3, Calgary 1. So 17 of the 29 crowds of 30,000 plus across the CFL have been here in Winnipeg. Incredible fans. I did see someone comment, was like, yeah, it's because they keep winning. It's like, yeah, that's how you get people to come to your games. Try and win. I don't know, Edmonton losing 20 straight at home, not going to put butts in seats. Last time I checked, Hustler. People aren't going to go to your game if you lose 20 straight.
You don't win for 4 years at home, it might affect attendance.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, you think winning. So good.
And to your point, credit to the Bombers. I mean, not only is it is the biggest party in town every time they play. The team has a home record unlike anything I've seen in my entire life. And they just keep on winning. And listen, 8 wins in a row right now. Clinch night tomorrow night. If they can get it done, Bombers are 3.5-point favorites tomorrow against the Toronto Argonauts.
I'm just looking at the TSN schedule because we've got to know what channels they're on if you're not going. So TSN 3 has Blackhawks and Jets. They got a pregame at 6:30. I'm sure it's John Liu and the crew. Craig Button said yesterday he'll be part of that game. And CFL pregame is at 7 on TSN 1. And Argos Bombers at 7:30 on TSN 1 and 5. So make sure you have those channels written down, and you'll have to choose at home or get multiple TVs. I know I'll be having a couple set up. I'm fired up. First TSN broadcast, so get our first look at Dan and Kevin in the regular season. John Liu, they do a great job here. Nice to get the local coverage for the home opener.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Dan on the call, and of course, actually, Dusty. I think it's Marsh. Isn't Marsh doing the game tomorrow night? He said he was coming in for this.
Oh
game.
Yeah, we talked to him last week.
Marsh has got the call because Dusty's doing the Provincial Pride Bowl, as he just referred to it as, the Stamps and Elks both not making the playoffs, playing tomorrow. Who will get bragging rights to be the best of a bad lot in Alberta based on tomorrow. We'll get into the lock shop tomorrow at noon over at Edmonton Sports Talk, crank out all of our best bets for the NFL. And then 1 o'clock, a packed show getting ready for the Jets home opener against the Chicago Blackhawks tomorrow night. And the Bombers looking to clinch home field in the West Final tomorrow with the win over the Toronto Argonauts. Big thanks to everyone that jumped on with us today. Great crowd of fired up Jet fans after the big win last night. Make sure to join us tomorrow. Lots of Bombers, lots of Jets. Marble race at the end of the show to kick off a long Thanksgiving weekend. Cannot wait for it. Thanks to all the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day, and all of you. And welcome back to a few people we hadn't seen in a while. Hopefully you'll join us tomorrow. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you're with us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let people know. Available on podcast wherever you get your favorite pods. Just search Winnipeg Sports Talk and hit subscribe. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. 1-0 for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll set up the home opener tomorrow in a big Bomber game at Princess Auto Stadium. Tomorrow live at 1 right here on YouTube. In the meantime, enjoy what should be a great sports night this evening. We'll catch you at 1.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.